What do a lawyer, a plumber, an actress, a hairdresser, a the largest uh what would we say cannabis grower, branding, distribution, uh the one of five only in California, women owned and veteran solar companies, and one of the largest in California. What do all those people have in common? Well, I can tell you what they do have in common is the vibe experience. We just came off it, and I didn't even set up anything today, but I just had to get to the studio, and I had to tell every single one of you guys about. We've been talking about it. It was April 12th, and I tell you this experience was absolutely mind blowing. We came into the room, and I looked out across, and probably around 50, 60 people that were there, and we were there at the Edison House in Salt Lake. And as I look out, I realized, wow, this is like all my friends. All my friends. I had friends there from second grade. My friend Sarah. I had my buddy Justin, who I've known for almost 20 years. Matt from Chicago, who lives in LA. He's a fashion designer now, and I'm wearing his clothes and his chain right now. And this experience was just an unbelievable and unreal. If you're watching or listening and you were there, comment right now. Like, go in the comments and comment right now, because I tell you, this was an unreal experience. And what was great about it is I woke up that morning and I was ready to go, and my wife just said, it's already done. It's already done. Just go there and do exactly what you were born to do, which is just make friends and get everybody else to become friends too. And throughout the day, Coach Keith Hale, I mean, absolutely murdered it. We started off, and Coach Keith talked about being as opposed to doing. And he had an exercise where everyone came together, and they couldn't talk about what they did. They just talked about who they were. And it broke down all of the walls. It was, I mean, absolutely mind blowing. And then comes in Mr. John Elston. And John Elston, hospitality industry. Let me go back to Coach Keith, though, because Coach Keith retired at 28 from the real estate and development world. This guy is an absolute beast. Some of the homes that he built, I mean, would absolutely blow your mind. And I'd even share it with some of the people from the Vibe Experience. But this guy who literally, I mean, would build massive mansions, develop land all over the place, then got to a place where he said, it's not about what I do, it's about who I am. And he got the room set. And then John Elston comes in, and, I say he's the Michael Jordan of the hospitality industry. This guy is the unreal. The reason why hotels have, like, it's a normal thing to have an ironing board and an iron is because of John Elston. Like, the history that he has, 44 years in the hospitality industry at the top level. And he comes in, he talks about AI. But because people were already open, their hearts were open, and they were talking about who they were, and they were connected. He brought in AI, and people weren't afraid of it. They started talking. He created an exercise where they started talking, and there was AI developers in the room. They were talking. They were talking with the attorneys. They were talking with the actresses. They were talking with, all different realms of people. And what was great was what Pops always said was it was just people. And he said that if you build the people and allow the people to build the business, then magic can happen. Well, then we go through, and he has them do a little exercise, work together, and then on comes Baron Baptiste. And Baron Baptiste, let me give you a little background on him. His parents are responsible for bringing yoga to America. He was responsible for bringing yoga to the NFL. He also went on QVC and sold over $150 million worth of product there, had a signing bonus for his book that was 3 times that of the Michael Jordan. He created and sold and scaled Core Power Yoga. And now he comes up and he just shares about being present. That you may think in your mind that I'm here, and you may look at somebody else and think that it's over there. But when you can bring everything to here, and you can be present right where you're at, it's amazing what can happen. And we got to spend time with him, and then we went to lunch. I noticed in the eyes of all the people, especially the women at the Vibe Experience, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They were ready. They were like chomping at the bit for all this information, but then they started to get hangry, and I could see it in their eyes. And then we broke for lunch. And when we broke for lunch, we invited them to have lunch with someone who they didn't even know. People sat around, they communed, they broke bread together, they talked, and they connected. Then we came back and we had the top motivational speaker in the world who's been at the Oval Office 6 times in the last 6 weeks. This guy has broken barriers. He started off on the assembly line at GM, and now he's speaking to the front line, garnering almost $100,000 a speech when a year and a half to 2 years ago, he was actually on the line working at GM, and now he's talking to their leadership. But not only that, he helped to be able to bring in a day of prayer into the White House and sign that bill. That's because of Mr. James Dixon. And he came in and he talked to us about not only being present, about like having presence, but being a present. And he connected with every single person in the room, and it wasn't a canned keynote. What it was this. He talked about every single person. He could not have prepared for this unless he was present in the room the whole day, because he just talked about everybody else. And he told a story about a kidney that he, a guy came up to him from years before who was the cool guy in high school. And he talked about, the guy asked him, it was a guy that was struggling with drugs. He said, hey, can you help me and give me a kidney? And James was a nice guy. And he said, yeah, I'll look into it. And he was going to do it. And the guy ended up passing away before he could. But down the road, James had, got his car repossessed. And when he went to the bank to get it taken care of, they said that they were just basically going to take his car. And the president of the bank walks by and sees James and says, hey, you knew my brother. And then they started talking. He said, hey, you offered my brother a kidney. And because of that, he not only erased the debt and got his car back, but he actually paid off the whole entire car and just erased that debt completely. But it was because of a friend and a relationship that he had made. And what we talked about this whole time with the Vibe experience was that membership has its privileges, but relationship would give you access. And then we finish off and everyone tells us how to, like, you need to make friends, but then they send us into networking events and it's all about what we do, pass a card and how I could do all these things. And what we did is we brought these people together, and this is what I wanted to do and I dreamed of. I wanted to be able to have a gathering of people that shedded all the things that they did, and they locked into each other and they connected friendship, because you never know where someone's from. You never know where they're going. You never know where you're going to meet up again. So make a friend out of everyone. And this is what my pop said all the time. And every single place that I've been in that I'm not qualified for has been because of a friend. And James and I and John got on the phone last night. We're talking as friends, and we got some ideas that are coming, and it's just unreal. And then I got the chance to talk to my buddy, Tim Semmelroth, this morning, the number one, the only board certified truck attorney in all of Iowa. And I got to talk to him this morning. Why? Because membership will give you privileges, but relationships give you access. And I got to talk to him this morning, not as my attorney, but as my friend. And we talked about the next Vibe experience, and he was like, this is so incredible, because what he was saying is, I think that we need to step out of ourselves and realize that there's so many different ideas and so many different realms that can inspire you in whatever it is that you're doing. And so it was an honor, a pleasure. And if you were there, like I said, hit me with a comment right now. I see you guys on here with me, and it was a dream, because I tell you, you never know where you're going to meet up again. And I had some friends in that room since I was in 2nd grade, and I had no idea the journey that we would be on. So why don't we get this party started?
Nothing more on my mind. I got 2 shines, so every day I climb. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
Well, I tell you, this is probably the most unscripted podcast that I've ever done because I was so excited about the experience itself. I was just texting Baron Baptiste, and who happens to his family brought yoga to America, built Core Yoga, sold $150 million in product on QVC, and was one of the most successful guys there. Brought yoga to the NFL, created, scaled, sold Core Power Yoga, which some of you guys might know of. I'm texting him right now because he's my friend. I texted over to my buddy James, the absolute motivator, and check this out. In that room, first starting with Coach Keith, this guy, I mean, honestly, like every time a person stepped to, when I say a stage, it was in front of the room. And if you were there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It was a slaying. Like it was one of those things. Every single thing was a mic drop moment, right? And it was that those mic drop moments, though, elevated the next one. So Keith, Coach Keith, started us off. Keith Hale, Coach Keith started us off, and he dropped the mic, but he elevated the next speaker. And then John Elston comes in. And when John Elston comes in, I tell you, to have him in the room, this guy is partners with Will Guidara. Will Guidara is Unreasonable Hospitality, the book there. And I was just talking with Tim Semmelroth. And John, if you're listening right now, what I want you to know is he was so blown away that you took time with him, and he, you know, his favorite book was Unreasonable Hospitality. And here's the thing is, when we first walked in, you know, people were a little skittish and they were kind of back and forth and stuff like that. Like, and then started, you know, people started to make friends a little bit, but Tim walked up to me and said, "Hey, Kelly, do you know the book Unreasonable Hospitality?" And I said, you know, I have heard of it. And he said, "Have you read it?" And I said, "No, I haven't read it yet." But he said, "I tell you, it is absolutely amazing." I said, "Hold on for a second, Tim," because he didn't know John yet. And I said, "Hold on for a second, Tim." John, and I called John over. John walks over, and I was like, "Hey, John, tell Tim who you're partners with." And he was like, "Oh, I'm partners with Will Guidara because I present his certified and present his Unreasonable Hospitality information." And Tim's jaw drops open because that's his favorite book. And John told Tim that he has to give away that book to somebody else because he's got a book coming that's going to be autographed by Will Guidara for Tim. And so these are the kind of connections that we were able to be able to have. And it was, I mean, I tell you, every single person, everyone set it up for the next one. So a lot of times when you go to events, there's people, and I tell you in the speaking world and knowing that and being in it for the last 30 years, a lot of times people are like, "Oh, I'm going to go in and I'm going to slay and I'm going to do all that." Every one of these people that I know, they're all my friends. It wasn't a lineup of random speakers. It was my friends. So James Dixon, Baron Baptiste, John Elston, Keith Hale, all of these speakers who are world renowned, they're just my friends though. That's why they were there. So I didn't go out and say, "Oh, who is going to resonate with the audience the most?" What I did is I brought together my friends. And I tell you, it was unreal to be able to be in the room and see the experience. And I go back to Coach Keith because what he did is he set the tone for the whole entire room and for the rest of the day because he brought everyone into, he did this exercise. And if you haven't got a chance to be able to see Coach Keith, go and see Coach Keith. And it was probably one of the coolest things where he asked us to go back to our, you know, our 8-year-old self. And he walked us through that. And you would think, "Oh, you know, here's business people in the room. Here's, you know, one of the top attorneys in the nation. Here's all these people. And is this going to," I tell you, everybody diffused. Everybody diffused. And then when we sat in and said, you know, he set it up for John Elston. And when John Elston came in, he taught on AI, and he said, you know, it's either going to be the villain in your life or it is going to be, you're going to be the master of it. And he talked about ways not to take the heart out of things, but to be able to keep the heart and also be able to give you back your time. And then when Mr. Baron Baptiste came in and he taught us about presence and being in that present moment. And then James Dixon, literally, like, I know you're listening, most likely, Mr. James Dixon, because you were unbelievable. Like, I've watched him and I've been with him, and he is one of the best speakers in the whole entire world, but I've never seen him um, at the level that he was. Never. I've never, ever, 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 ever seen him. Like he came in and he closed on the level that was like I've never seen. And I was telling him that I was telling James Dixon that, and I pulled him aside as a friend and I said, "Look, I want to tell you how much it means to me that you did what you did." I'm actually sending James. I'm going to send him a link right now because I'd love for you guys to see him if we can get him on. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to send one over to John Elston if you're watching, John, if you're still on. So, but it was just this whole experience, guys, came from a couple ideas that we had that my wife told me that, you know, I think one of the biggest things is when she told me that it wasn't just possible; it was already done. And this experience, like throughout the day, and then let me move on from that day. So you got setting up as far as being not doing, right? You got that. You got coming into AI. You then got presence. Then you got become a present and how you can connect with people and the relationships that you have. And you never know. This is what was brought home by James Dixon. Then we break for a couple hours, but people don't break. They just still hang out. Then they come back. And it's the Vibe Room. And the Vibe Room is exactly what I'm talking about. 60s jazz club, speakeasy. And I tell you, we started off with music from the beautiful Claudia Ryan. And then um, from that point, we had three stand-up comedians, which we had Carrie, we had Kai, and then we had Linda Schwartz, and she brought it home. And everyone's completely open to having so much fun. We break for networking, and guess what? Nobody leaves. Then nobody leaves because the power in the room and everybody's connected and they're friends and they're all over the place. And it was unreal. And then we come back, and it just so happens that the former Attorney General of Utah, Sean Reyes, walks into the room and he's like, "Hey, what's up, man?" He's in a baseball cap. He's hanging out and he's so cool. And then I surprise him and I bring him up on stage, and we roasted our buddy James Dixon because he's my brother. And we roasted him. And then I asked him, because I saw him do this, I asked him to rap. And so we had the former Attorney General of Utah, just retired a couple months ago, 3 terms, rapping. Like he did a freestyle on stage, and he does that. The crowd goes nuts. And then I said, "Are you ready for your special surprise interview?" And I even said it to John Elson. I looked at him and said, "John, are you ready?" And John, I could tell John was like, "Oh, wow, he's going to interview me." And I said, "John, are you ready for this surprise interview?" He said, "Yeah." And then they went wild. And I said, "Please bring to the stage none other than my beautiful wife, Brooklyn Cardenas." And she comes up, and we got a chance to be able to sit and chat. She was so mad at me. She's like, "Why would you do that?" And then everybody, what I found, was so excited to be able to meet my wife because she's so real. And we created this experience, guys. I tell you, it was an unreal time, so much fun. And the pictures are going to be coming out soon. I want to thank Aaron Arthur and Kyler also, and Monica. They documented the whole entire thing, the video, the photos, all those things. The Edison House for their partnership, and every single person that came, every single person that was there. And what I said is like, if you love it, bring a friend. And every single person was like, "I want to bring a friend." This experience, and I want to finish with this, guys. My friend, Sarah Nisperos, has been my friend since 2nd grade. She's also one of the baddest stylists as far as fashion stylist on the planet. She worked with the likes of Tony Hsieh, Marc Jacobs. She inspired runway shows because of her fashion. Just what she wore on a day-to-day basis, like the way that she would wear her hair, the way that she would wear makeup, all these things. And we were talking as I was transitioning from the professional beauty industry into this personal development space. And she was like, "Man, I don't like speakers at all. Like, I don't like hanging out with speakers. They all say the same thing and they regurgitate information. And I just always stay away from them." And she's like, "I was around the best. I mean, I would be with Tony Hsieh all the time, and he would be talking. He was the founder of Zappos. And, he would bring in all these speakers, and she would be like, I would just leave." And I've been talking to her about these experiences for about 3 years. And she said, and I forced her to come. And I said, "I'd love for you to come to this one." I forced her and her man, Brent, and she came. And she said, she sent me a little message. She said, "Thank you so much for proving me wrong." And I said, that's not what we set out to do, but it meant so much to me that one of my best friends since second grade was in the room and experiencing it. Because if I'm lying about stuff that we were talking about, she could call me to the table. And what the whole weekend was about was truly, truly, truly making friends. And when you make friends, you have no idea the opportunities, the things that the doors that will open, because membership has its privileges, but relationships will gain you access. I tell you, if you get a chance, the next Vibe experience, we don't have the date yet. We're going to be releasing it in the next couple of weeks. But I tell you, it is not a room. This is the room that you don't want to ever miss. The experience that you don't want to ever miss. I tell you, we started off, we went nuts and bolts from 9 till 3:30, and then from 6:30 to 9, it was straight party, and then nobody wanted to leave. We ended at 9:30, probably 9:15. People didn't leave the room till like 11. It was, or probably 10, and then they all went out afterwards. And so I just tell you, bringing people together is the greatest thing in the world. The vibe is not the energy you bring into the room, it's the way that people feel when you leave. And I believe that we were able to do that, and what we encourage the people to do is not to focus on the milestones or in their lives, but just focus on the little tiny things, the Inchstones. Pile those up, they'll become the milestones. I want to thank every one of you guys for not only tuning in here, sharing it with a friend, but also for the people who came to the Vibe experience. They came from all over the country, from Florida, from Mississippi, from Colorado, from California, all over, just to come and spend time together. And now we have a new group of friends. Can't wait for the next one. I hope you guys have a phenomenal day. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
Nothing more on my mind. I got two shines, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never know, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.